Reese's peanut butter cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
Hail cheaters and welcome to the Always Cheating FPL podcast. My name is Brandon and I am here with our friend Dave Weigner-Lodahl. Josh is out with an extension of his summer break. Actually, Josh had a family emergency that he's tending to. We wish him well. Jumping in last minute is Dave Weigner-Lodahl. Dave, you've been on the pod many times. A better FPL pedigree than me, I will admit. For astute listeners of Always Cheating, they'll know you're the manager who's always behind me come game week 25, and you're always 50 points ahead of me by game week 38. Such was the case at the end of last season. Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, and of course, best wishes to Josh. Hope we'll talk soon. And then I thought you were just inviting me on because it's episode 400.
It is episode 400. Yeah, it's maybe one to celebrate a milestone. I don't know.
I think so. Although when you're 40, you stop celebrating birthdays, so maybe like 400s, and we don't celebrate this really. Might,
exactly. I feel like that's like the baller move is to just brush 400 off your shoulder and move on. We'll see you at 500.
500 will happen this season, or is it next season? I don't remember how it works. But either way, maybe 500 should be a landmark. Do something fun for that.
Definitely. Dave, you're in the greater Boston area. I'm going to see you here in New York next weekend. Really looking forward to that. You're going to help us look at some. Josh and I we're not afraid of stats. We respect stats, but do we have data models? Not of our own, but you do pivot tables, Excel grids. You've done data analysis in your past lives. So I want to talk to you more about data analysis and how we can do that with Always Cheating when we hang out next weekend, Dave. For this episode, though, part of the theme is we're 4 weeks out from August 11th, the start of the 23-24 Premier League season. How far out is too far out? Or should we really be knee-deep in FPL planning right now? I don't know if we know the answer to that. And that's really kind of dependent on what kind of fantasy manager you are, if what you enjoy is just immediately jumping in feet first into the fantasy game. What we have for this episode, though, is 6 unanswered questions for a month out from the start of the FPL season. How did we land on 6, Dave? You tell me. Is it your lucky number?
406 is a big numerology episode, connecting the dots here.
Absolutely.
I just thought of a good idea. Maybe I can share, save it for next week or for our good friends at Fantasy Football Hub. But we all knew and enjoyed to some extent the launch stream, didn't we, Brandon? We enjoyed that launch stream where we launched the game, yes. And they streamed the player prices, and we all enjoyed that, didn't we? So what if we did the launch?
Highly engaged, yeah.
What if Fantasy Football Hub, our good friends at Fantasy Football Hub, what if we did a launch stream of the player projections? So you're like, ooh, I think Haaland's gonna project for 8 points this week. It's like, ooh, no, they got him up at 9.5. Guess the projection.
Totally, yeah. And then we bet the line, a la Bill Simmons. I like that. This is the kind of thinking that we need in this episode, Dave. We're forward thinking. You also have your Tottenham Hotspur Tervis glass. You're not going to get any condensation on your microphone while you record. I actually have a couple of Spurs questions right out of the gate. So I have been working on my game week 1 draft, and it's hard enough to work around Trent, Salah, and Haaland. Then there's Harry Kane. Harry Kane, sidebar, all-time worst Hot Ones guest. I think it's fair to say.
I will admit. I'm sorry. I love Hot Ones. I love Harry Kane.
I love hot ones too, and I love Harry Kane. I have no problem with Harry Kane.
I'm in the top 1% in the world of liking both of those things, and I didn't even bother watching the episode, Brandon.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me what you think's going to happen with Harry Kane. I mean, I don't know what there is to know as a Spurs supporter. I mean, what's your gut feeling?
I mean, I feel like this is like when people ask me if Tom Brady was leaving the Patriots. I'm like, well, kind of makes sense. But like it'll be weird until it does happen. So,
right.
I don't know what the betting odds right now. I'd say it's a good chance he's leaving. But also if he stays, wouldn't be shocked either. And I don't know, maybe have they reported if the new manager and them have talked yet? I'm just trying to avoid pronouncing his name, just for the record.
Postecoglou. Yeah. Unclear. I mean, given that Harry Kane is on hot ones, I'm not sure he's in contact with anybody at Tottenham Hotspur, and maybe his agent has turned around to Bayern Munich and said Harry Kane has already received in 24 hours 2.3 million views.
Oh, they're trying to up his Q score
on YouTube.
His follower count to drive up the contract. Oh my gosh. It's
all
true.
right, so Spurs and Kane aside, Dave, what's your kind of feeling right now, a month out from the start of the Premier League season? Are you how many drafts have you been through? Do you have any like immediate, man, they got the pricing wrong here? Where are you at?
It's a good question. So. And this is where always cheating. This is where you never count out always cheating, because you think, oh, another year. Oh, it's the same old complaints. The prices. Oh, this and that. And I start tinkering. I'm like, oh, FPL's back. I'm gonna start tinkering. Then I tune into old Brandon and Josh. And what do they say? Yeah. Watch out! Don't tinker too much. You don't want to over tinker. Because you do not want to be in that headspace in a couple of weeks. So I took your advice, Brandon. I still read the content.
Okay,
but I
if
did not
cheating told you to jump off a bridge, though, I mean, you've got to be an independent mind.
Well, wait till I come out with some ideas for our community, and we'll see how far we can take it.
Okay, so you walked up to that sort of like game week 1 tinker ledge, and you looked down, and you said, "That's a long drop off." Yeah. I'm kind of
so
in a similar boat.
Because you said, you said I'm not tinkering yet. So it's been a week or two since you said that. So where's your tinker levels?
It's still low on the tinker scale, but I was watching a BitTorrent of Manchester United. They were playing Leeds in their first preseason match where Mason Mount made his debut. My interest level is high in terms of looking at what these players are doing, who's playing, who's traveling, and the transfers and so on. And we're about to run through a quick laundry list of all the transfer news that we missed since last week. But when it comes, I guess then there are all these gaps in knowledge that I'm waiting to be filled in, or before I feel confident going to the FPL site. Whenever I go to do my tinker, there are players that I can't get past, namely Trent, Alexander-Arnold, Salah, and Haaland. And then to flesh out a team from there with little money, I start to lose steam, because then I'm like, I actually want more context. I want a few more data points. Preseason data points, you can't really trust them too much, but at least it's something. So I'm waiting for a little bit more. I mean, I'm going to go see Newcastle Brighton at Red Bull Arena in New Jersey in a couple of weeks. That just sounds like straight up fun. I'm not going to go there with my legal pad and the pencil behind my ear looking for data points. But I want to see players bed in. Sabazlai, the new number 8 at Liverpool, he's already in training there. Suddenly, this is really causing me to reinterpret what I'm thinking I'm going to expect from certain players at Liverpool. Darwin Nunez unveils that he has the number 9 shirt. What does that mean, Dave? He's got the number 9. What does that mean for Cody Gakpo?
Can't be good. All signs pointing down. Believe the
but
jersey.
I don't believe in that.
When
Much
someone
like
tells you
said.
who they are, believe them, Brandon. That's what I say.
Yeah, especially when it's Darwin Nunez. He's like, you see that barn door over there? I bet you I could hit it with this football. That's sort of where the consumption of information begins and the tinkering sort of like falls a little bit short. So, I mean, we've got some interesting questions to tackle here as just more strategic questions about how do we start to formulate strategy outside of just a game week 1 draft? Like, what are our initial goals beyond specific player picks for game week 1? How do we approach those early drafts with those strategies in mind? We want to talk a little bit about early team formation strategy. I want to get in a little bit into team talk. Like, who do we think is going to do well this season, just based on certain moves that are happening? Is Liverpool going to be back in the title hunt after missing out on the top 4? What's Arsenal going to be doing with the likes of Declan Rice, et cetera? So we've got plenty to talk about as we are a month out from the game. Recent transfer news, Dave. Some big moves actually happening this week, and a lot with FPL context. Onana, the Inter Milan goalkeeper, we finally got the here we go from Fab Romano. Onana moving to Manchester United. Of course, we knew David De Gea announced he was not coming back, so we knew this transfer was happening. What do you think about Onana in goal for Manchester United as a worthy FPL replacement for somebody like Luke Shaw? Is defensive cover something you feel is on the table for Manchester United this season?
Yeah, possibly. And they can definitely sing that Rihanna song for Onana, right? Onana. What's the
100%.
I'm sure a great baked-in song for the supporters, so congrats on that. Yeah, well, I saw Shaw was in the early template, if you will, Brandon. So, and then he started to get out of fashion. This is why I put down the pen. Like you said, first week I was like, "Oh, Shaw's hot," and then I'm like, put down, and then I got to put down the pen here because what are we doing?
Yeah, the market is really volatile right now, so it's like maybe it's not the time to buy because the stock prices are wildly fluctuating.
Yeah, but United's a bit of a wait and see with a little bit of that. And I think they're a very interesting preseason team, to say the least. So, but sure. I don't know, was De Gea that terrible for the defense? I guess he was. He was pretty bad, but
well, sure. The problem with De Gea ultimately was for the attack because Manchester United could not start a single attack from De Gea because he's horrible with the ball at his feet. So the expectation is that Onana brings a great shot-stopping prowess with being able to play with the ball at his feet. Ultimately, it's just all signs of that squad improving, and that's good. I think that's a rising tide lifting all Manchester United assets. I think probably the biggest conversation for FPL this past week was Pau Torres, left-footed center back moving from Villarreal to Aston Villa, and he's priced at 4.5. And why is everyone excited about Pau Torres? Well, he's 26 years old. He's in the prime of his career, and he's also played under Unai Emery, the Villa manager, at Villarreal. Won the Europa League with Emery there. So you think this is a top target? Emery's going to be looking to play Pau a lot in the center back position. The question marks, though, remain who misses out. Is it Konsa? Is it Mings? Does Emery want to play 3 at the back? Nonetheless, this is a similar to what I'm thinking about Onana, Dave, is this just seems like a signing that improves the defense, full stop. So it just improves the value of any defensive asset on Aston Villa. But at 4.5, we would assume at this point, but again, there's so much to learn about Villa in the preseason that he's a starter. Villa defense, what do you think, Dave?
I like to usually rule of thumb in FPL for the newbies. It's good. It's nice to have like one cheap defender with a maroon shirt. So whether it be Villa or Hammers or Burnley, it feels good to have that one 4.5 maroon shirt just kind of on the periphery of your squad. I might have to look into that. Yeah, I like that shout.
2 major moves for Arsenal. Declan Rice, that move finally. God, how long do we have to read about this?
Yeah, it's like when they announce NBA trades like 7 months later. You're like, what?
So Declan Rice priced at 5.5, probably not fantasy relevant. Jurriën Timber coming from Ajax to Arsenal. He's not been put into the fantasy game yet, so we don't know what his price is going to be. Right-footed, center back, but could play at right back. Arsenal fans suggesting he could fill in for and rotate with Ben White. We don't know. He certainly could play in center back. William Saliba, who plays on the right side of Gabriel, forced to play a lot of minutes for Arsenal last season. Is this just high-caliber cover for the entire right side of the defense? We don't know, but Jurriën Timber is a class player and could mix up some of the rotation for Arsenal. Manor Solomon going to Spurs. All right, so here I'm a Fulham supporter. You're a Spurs supporter. Our friend FPL Rabbi alerted me as a Fulham fan, like, you've got quite a player on your hands when we got Solomon on loan last season, and he scored 4 goals, a lot of them really important goals, coming off of the bench, but only 4 starts for Fulham. Fitness was a huge issue for Solomon, but coming out of the season into the summer, he looks really fit. You must be pretty stoked about this signing.
Yeah, of course. Spurs, great Jewish history with players, so he should fit right in with the team, with the club. Obviously, really liked him as a player last year. Was excited when we could get you from Fulham, keep him. So I think that's good.
He plays down the left traditionally. I think maybe I have some picture in my mind of him streaking down the right at some point. But who is he coming in for? I mean, Son has that left side kind of locked down. Am I misremembering? Was there anybody else playing down the left to push Son more central?
Well, so this is where my unplugging will make me sound like an uninformed fan a bit. But I will say, there is talk of like changing the wing back system altogether under Postecoglou. So
okay.
That's another preseason watch. A little bit of how that will evolve, but and how James Madison will start pinging balls around might change the entire how the team looks to maybe Spurs of a few years ago. I'm a little high on Spurs. Well, but you got to believe. You got to believe. But they're a watch. And they're a watch for sure.
If you keep Kane as well, there is a lot of attacking, sort of rebuilding happening here, which is great. I mean, but you guys could be high flying, like entertainers, just leaking goals but scoring lots of goals all the same. A couple of other quick transfer points to mention here, Dave. Bart Verbruggen coming into Brighton at 4.5. Verbruggen is a threat to Jason Steele as the starting goalkeeper. If I had to put money down right now, Dave, I would say Steele keeps that starting spot to start the season, and then De Zerbi will, be like, I'm watching you like a hawk. I mean, Steele can make the occasional mistake, but I do like that he does have a high degree of confidence playing out of the back. He's a decent shot stopper. He's just a little he's just still a little raw. So it will be a question of is Verbruggen more of the finished article. Ashley Young moves to Everton from Aston Villa, and I mean, Willian trying to sign a 2-year contract at Fulham instead of just a 1-year contract that was offered. And here's Ashley Young puttering over to Everton at 38 years old. My God, like this doesn't fill me with a lot of hope for Everton to start the season.
Isn't there like a meme like where it's just like they say like Ashley Young and it's always parentheses, yes, that Ashley Young, just like just a hammer. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not his son or
Yeah. I mean, bless. The interesting thing about Everton is, they've shed a lot of star players over the last few seasons, and bringing Ashley Young in, I'm sure he'll be a presence for good in the locker room and bring some experience. And I mean, there's no doubt he's probably not going to be in a starting position, but he'll be decent cover for whoever is there.
This fits right into Josh's narrative of like, oh, there's some guy with a name, like, oh, I know that guy. It's like, yeah, maybe he'll be good on Everton. Like maybe Everton should pick him up. Right. It's that signing in real life.
Opposite of names you've recognized, Romain Favre moves to Bournemouth in the midfield, not in the fantasy game yet, and Tahith Chong, who you'd know from his big hair, a Manchester United midfielder who would get very scarce minutes, has moved to Luton, and he's priced as a 5.0 midfielder. I don't know what this means for Chong, if he's straight into that starting 11 for Luton. 5.0, definitely too expensive by 0.5 to take a flyer on him. But, Luton, people not expecting anything from Luton to start the season. In other news, speaking of Luton, Dave, we have our first postponement. We thought this was going to be a breath of fresh air this season. All fixtures would be played with normalcy, no COVID cancellations or postponements. Hopefully no prominent passings of public figures. But here we are. Luton versus Burnley in Game Week 2 has just been postponed because Luton is still making some changes to their stadium ahead of their coming to the Premier League, and they're not ready yet. So good for them, Dave, for getting ahead of that news and saying, "Hey, listen, let's just go ahead and postpone this."
Yeah.
So
there's only been like a TikTok meme on that for like the past 8 months. Yeah. Who would have saw that coming?
So and I think this is fantasy relevant for anybody who is eyeing up those 4.0 defenders at Luton and Burnley. And I think the beauty of the 4.0 defenders at these teams is you'll definitely have cover for them on your bench, and I don't think this really impacts our strategy as we build our team for Game Week 1. Okay, so we kind of discussed our own current state of FPL tinkering and our engagement with the FPL news. Dave, let's get into our 6 unanswered questions ahead of the FPL season. But first, of course, we've got some lovely little housekeeping to do. Join the official Always Cheating Listener League, the Always Cheating Super League. We've already got 13,000 managers up and running in the Super League. The code is A63ECL. That's A63ECL, or just go to alwayscheating.com, and the auto join link is on the league tab, or just hit the banner right at the top of the homepage. And if you want to be more involved than just joining that big free listener league, become a patron. If you like what you hear, you want to say thanks, and in return, get some more FPL content, go to patreon.com/alwayscheating, and what you'll get at the tier of your choosing is going to be more strategy talk and tons of extra mini leagues, which we organize through our Discord server. Josh and I are on the Discord all the time, helping you with your team reviews. You guys can talk to us directly or engage with hundreds of other Always Cheating supporters there. And we give you an extra podcast every week, ad-free, that comes out every Thursday night. Once we get Josh back on the saddle, we'll start those Patreon pods in a couple of weeks. And an email to all of our existing Patreon supporters went out last week with the league codes. If you need any more information, do let us know. We'll have more info coming to you soon about various prizes. And at the top tier, producer tier and the Volkswagen tier, we're toying around with doing something other than a T-shirt this year, which could actually be even more excellent. I'm looking at your Tervis glass right now, Dave, and thinking, wow, wouldn't that be something? Big thank you to our newest Patreon supporters, Christopher Bauman, Mike Durrett, Brian MM at the Volkswagen level, Carl G. Julio Pena is our newest producer. Big thanks to Julio. Darren Franks, Nico Papajani, Benedict, Sam Barford Alsop, and Ben Davis. And just a moment for Fantasy Football Hub. Dave, you mentioned that they are our great friends, and this season on Always Cheating, we are in partnership with Fantasy Football Hub. I'm a huge fan of their site. We're going to talk a bit about fixtures in a moment. Their fixture ticker is second to none. If you just want a top-down view of what fixtures are coming up from every teams and how to rate their difficulty, you get your team rated by AI. Dave, you've seen the rise of AI recently. Fantasy Football Hub has their own AI that can rate your team. You can get non-AI expert team reveals. every week are happening on Fantasy Football Hub. Ben Krellen, of course, a celebrity among the FPL community. He does his fixture prediction grid, and he and the likes of Ben Krellen are revealing their teams there on Fantasy Football Hub week to week. And they have tons of data, real Opta data, real stats, always a great tiebreaker. Dave, do you follow Opta on Twitter? What do you think about Opta?
Opta's a great follow. I mean, they're a little bit, they have a few accounts, but I mean, a lot of people say AI, they might start to nuclear bomb us, but this will help you nuke your mini league. Am I right?
Oh yeah. Speaking of nuking your mini league, here's the big offer from Fantasy Football Hub. Win your mini league this season, or Fantasy Football Hub is going to give you your subscription money back. Terms and conditions do apply, but I love the confidence from the Hub here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Hub. I'm a big fan of the Hub. Actually, my favorite part of the Hub, which isn't even in this list of features, it's the team reveals, and not because I'm a cheeky person just copying someone's team, but they do an excellent job in those team reveals of talking about their process and why they're doing certain things. So I think those are a fantastic read. And also another thing you didn't even mention is Chris Tan's captained article. That's a big. Josh and I are huge fans of that article. So I've been a Hub user for a few years. If you haven't tried it, definitely give it a shot this year.
Yeah, and give it a shot at 50% off. Become a member at any tier today at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always. Go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always, and there's where you can get the 50% off code for membership this year. All right, Dave, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our 6 unanswered questions ahead of the new FPL season.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 15% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Planning a trip to one of the great national parks? LL Bean went to the experts at the National Park Foundation to get the inside scoop on which parks are the best to visit in each season. Whether you're looking for outstanding scenery, smaller crowds, or unique activities, LL Bean. Be an outsider. To check out the full list of recommendations, visit llbean.com/explore.
What's up? It's Kaylee Cuoco. When it comes to travel, we all have a happy place. I just went to my happy place. I just went to Maui, and it was truly amazing. Priceline has always been about getting you to your happy place for a happy price with deals you really can't find anywhere else. Like up to 60% off select hotels in Costa Rica or 5-star hotels for 2-star prices in Cabo.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Style, space, functionality. The 2023 Chevrolet Traverse is a great option for people with disabilities. It was designed with purposeful solutions that help make driving more accessible, so you can get through the day comfortably and efficiently no matter where you need to go. Chevy Accessibility, engineered to go forward. Learn more at chevy.com/accessibility.
All right, Dave, welcome back. Where do we begin? Well, let's begin with question number 1. Again, we have 6 unanswered questions we want to talk about with 1 month to go before the Game Week 1 deadline. And that really is the first question. Where do we even begin at this point? A couple of great questions on the Always Cheating Discord. Dang asks, what key principles do you apply to your Game Week 1 team so as to help you ensure a good start? Last year, I was not able to recover from a bad start. And Amar B, with, I think, a really comprehensive question, too, here about where we begin, with still 4 weeks left to go before the season starts, where do we put our focus right now? Drafts are likely to change between now and when the game week 1 deadline occurs, and the early preseason fixtures have a lot of rotations and academy players. So what do we do during the next 1 to 2 weeks to help prepare for game week 1? So this is a big sort of idea, Dave, in terms of what do we focus on when there is, in some respects, so much to focus on. Like, what are the transfer rumors? How are all these new guys in these teams going to change things? Versus, honestly, we don't know anything. So what do you think is the best way to start thinking about game week 1 4 weeks out?
I think what you said sort of earlier, especially, watching preseason matches on weird torrent sites, I think is probably sounds like psycho behavior, but I think it's the best path, because I think the eye test helps a lot with the preseason. Although, I mean, there's enough folks out there watching it and writing about it. We'll probably get a lot of good information. So if you just stay tuned, even if you can't watch it, I'm sure you'll get a lot of information. But I think, I don't know, but Brandon, I feel like this preseason is a lot more interesting than even years past. Don't you feel like there's just a lot of moving parts in the top 6, really, that we need to pay close attention to?
I do agree, because there are teams that are high caliber. We talked a little bit about Spurs, and then there's Liverpool, where, are they sleeping giants coming into this season because they were off their game last season, missed out on the top 4, and new transfers coming in just can wildly change the fantasy view on teams like Liverpool and Spurs, and those are huge expenses on our fantasy budgets. Eye tests can go for how does the player look on the pitch. I'm also interested on the eye test in how shredded do particular players look in. So if you go to
best shape of his life narrative, wow.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I mean, if you go to Liverpool's Instagram, Salah shredded, Trent shredded. Jordan Henderson looks like he might be going to Saudi Arabia. Boo to him. He also looks shredded.
Wait, this is a straw man argument. Has Salah ever not looked shredded? Has Salah pulled in like a James Harden season? I don't remember that. He's always been shredded.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Calvin Phillips showing up to City Camp, and Pep said he's too fat. And
Weston McKennie showing up shredded. Now that's a story.
Yeah. Now, but we don't want to get too far down there with body talk, because I'm a big fan of John Daly, the golfer, the grip it and rip it. Sometimes your physique doesn't really match your prowess on the court.
That's true. We were trying to get to burly tennis players today. I don't think we got there with that discussion either. But no, I mean it is good to see how players are looking, especially the new folks. I mean, that's where I really. I mean, and have I had a 100% success rate with that? No, but still, it does help. We all remember watching Salah and being like, "Yep, this is going to work," and even Haaland to some extent. So I think that's good.
But
go ahead.
Well, just to jump in, Dave, the preseason is often debated in terms of like how valuable is the preseason, because as Amar notes, you get academy players in these lineups, and Mason Mount gets his first start for Manchester United last week, but he was not playing with a single person, at least in the front of that lineup, who he'd probably be lining up with in the Premier League. So what do you actually learn? I think you learn more from that than you do going on. Well, okay, I want to be careful how I say this. Just this idle talk about such and such a defender is priced at 4.5, therefore he fashions into your fantasy team in this good way. So far out from game week 1, a lot of the conversations are strictly based on what is a player's price in the fantasy game. When I think what's more interesting is to build up a certain base of enthusiasm for certain players, then come back to the fantasy game and say, okay, so this player's priced here. there is a ripple effect to the player who plays to the left of them or to the right of them or in front of them, and they're priced this way. And just having that real world input helps actually give context to the FPL prices. That is really all a lot of people engaging with the fantasy game have at their fingertips right now. On the contrary, there are a lot of great discussions happening on discussion boards like Reddit. I love Twitter, of course, super engaged with the fantasy community. I was cheating Discord, where there are fans of these clubs. When the first question I asked you, Dave, was, you're a Spurs supporter. What's going on with Harry Kane? What I love about going online at this point of the season is there are tried and true Luton fans and Burnley fans out there that will give you better insight into the players and the managers coming up from the championship than you'd ever get from just trying to say, okay, this player might start for Luton at 4.0, but what am I going to expect from them really on the pitch from a fantasy point of view? So I guess the overall lesson here, Dave, is what we can do for the next 2 weeks is just be open to all inputs and put an emphasis on fan knowledge and what we're seeing these players do in training and on the pitch, as opposed to just trying to puzzle together a fantasy budget, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that approach, and it sets you up for the whole season, thinking through just getting to know the players, and that's what we're all talking about. It's fancy, but it's football in the end. We gotta watch the players, learn the vibes of the team, the X vibes.
Yes.
I think that's where we're at. I think I like that. That's all good stuff to me.
We're in vibes preseason. I love that. All right, question number 2 ahead of the FPL season. How are we, with that just said, approaching early drafts? And what I want to talk about here, Dave, in question 2 is less what our early drafts look like and more this idea of the fantasy template. And some listeners will be shocked to learn that with 4 weeks to go and just a handful of data points that people are already settling on game week 1 drafts. That's crazy in and of itself. What's crazier is there's already a conversation going that all these game week 1 drafts right now are template. And my mission this season, whether it's preseason or as we go through the season, is I want to eradicate template talk from the FPL discourse, because I don't think it's particularly useful. I understand the impulse is I want to be different. I want to do it my own way. What I do think that masks is a lot of people out there feel like a template robs them of some opportunity to be the only right one out there. And I would suggest like a template actually benefits people who really want to be the outlier, who want to be right and get one over on their friends. If there's a template, great. That's a perfect opportunity for you to do something different. I mean, does your hair stand on end when people start talking about templates, or are you one of the people who looks down their nose at people who have high-owned players?
No, quite the opposite. I actually just remembered it flashed into my head when you asked this question, that I was on a pod either last year or year before preseason. I said a good way to start any draft is to just open up the app and sort by total percent selected, top to bottom, and just start there. And there's absolute, and I think it'd be kind of silly not to some respect, if you're sort of just looking for like a first draft or because there's knowledge in the market. This is a market. The selection, the percent selected is in some ways the quote unquote price, or the how many people agree with that price being of good value. So you're just using information from the market to start your team. And I think that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the word template because the connotation is it's copy paste, right? Mm-hmm. That there's a structure and it's copy paste. Yeah. So the connotation is you're not putting any thought into it. And right. I love our old school FPL friends and Nick Triggerlips and all these old school people who, are a little bit, get upset about the changing way the information is being shared today and how this information is making the market sharper. And that makes more players more popular who are good value. And that's just an efficient market. So I would say, and this is something we can take from NFL fantasy in the US, we don't say, and it's obviously it's a draft game, completely different, but there are games similar to this where instead of using the name template, we use the name chalk. And that name, I believe, comes from like the derivations like horse racing, where they put a name up on a chalkboard and the name would become so standard, you erase it, but the lines are still there after you erase it. It just means someone's chalk. It means it's selected a lot. And when you're selected a lot, it means you're probably good. So that's where we say it's like, oh, he's chalky. That's necessarily a bad thing. It just means, a lot of people are on him. So and like you said, there's a double-edged sword to that. Number one, if people think, oh, like I don't need to use the selection percent or I don't know whose template, well, that's going to hurt you because you don't know all the good values. On the other hand, like you're saying, if you're galaxy braining like, oh, I don't want everyone, I need players below X%, I have too many players above X%, then you're also probably too much in your own head and just picking stuff for arbitrary reasons. So again, I think this is just more information and we just have to be thoughtful about how we use it. I guess would be my intro to that. Does that make sense?
Dave, you just made the most sense that anybody's made on Always Cheating in at least a few months. I will tell you that much. I thought that's a good response to the conversation around template. So let's kind of leave it at that. Thinking more about early drafts, Brian wanted to know, are triple ups too many eggs in one basket? So in the preseason, you can have that gut feeling about a particular team, and you just say, I really feel like Arsenal could get one over on a hungover Manchester City this season, and I need to be tripled up on them. I think their prices are a good value. How do you feel about triple ups this early in the season? Because like generally, a words of wisdom from Always Cheating would be the FPL season doesn't actually begin in game week 1, but it begins in game week 2 because there is going to be an explosion of information and fantasy understanding after game week 1 comes to a conclusion, and we're all going to be scrambling to sort of recalibrate our fantasy teams. That much you can expect. There's always going to be at least one player, likely 3 or 4 players, who explode onto our fantasy radars after game week 1 is played. And to have a degree of flexibility coming out of game week 1 is really good. So if you're tripled up on a particular team, did you get the right 3 going into game week 1 is an immediate concern that I have. Do you see any teams coming into the start of the season where you think, triple up feels like a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the question is general. Are triple ups too many eggs in one basket? The answer is absolutely not, especially if they're from a team in top 4 contention, because it's one of the sort of tried and true rules of FPL is, go for the known assets. So if you can get if you can afford a Man City triple up, go for it. It's going to be cost prohibitive once you get along the edges. But another way this goes nicely with the quote unquote template. Well, we'll just change that to chalk. I don't know. I'll just throw that out there. But if you're picking chalky players, you know what that means because I explained to you earlier. But if you're picking chalky players, you're like, oh, Saka is 52% owned. Oh, he's chalky. And let's hear a Martinelli. He's 14%. Oh, Odegaard's 20%. That's a better example. So, these guys are chalky. But what percent of teams have both Saka and Odegaard? And then a defender, of course, probably low single digits. So you can go do your head in with being like, oh, these players have such high selection percent. Well, if you're tripling up, that's a way of sort of betting and getting an edge on one team and saying like, I really feel in my gut that Arsenal give a hot start. They have great fixtures, as we all know. And I think it's a great way to get leverage if you think a certain team's going to do well. I mean, absolutely. Of course, if you're tripled up on a bottom team. That doesn't seem right, but I think we're all smart enough to sort of see that landmine. So won't go too
give
hard
our
on
listeners
that,
a little bit of credit here, Dave.
What team are you thinking of tripling up on? Is it Arsenal? Is obviously the obvious answer, I think, for many people.
I think Arsenal offers the best value for tripling up. The team that I am right now feeling most bullish about is Liverpool. I just can't believe that this team is going to be held out of the top four for more than one season. Since Liverpool won the title and won the Champions League, there's been a good amount of turnover in that squad, and you see big midfielder presences like Fabinho and Jordan Henderson moving out. But I think this could be a season where we see Jurgen Klopp finds what he was looking for all of last season, and that they easily trot into the top four. Do they challenge for the title? Who knows? But I think if it's and Salah being perhaps cost prohibitive at 12.5, I think it's an interesting opportunity to get Gakpo and Diaz, or Darwin and Szoboszlai, depending on who is a regular starter in that attack alongside a Liverpool defender, and that's a way to offset the fact that you're going without Salah. Now that's
that is risky. That's interesting, but very risky.
Yeah.
So that's, look, if, like you said, if you had a good gut feeling that was the case, and that's going to happen, you're going to be like rocket ship. But that would be a risky way, Brandon. But I like the idea. It's interesting to think about in the future.
I suppose
especially too.
It's certainly more theoretical, right, Dave, than in practice. And Salah is one of those talismanic figures in fantasy wherein he's in every draft that I've started to put together. So I'm not necessarily endorsing that specifically, but that is, I guess, the
maybe
case
after they get through Chelsea away and Newcastle away in the first three, then you might sort of start to go there. But no, triple up is good. And all of us, I'm sure, with City are thinking, do I have one or three? And there's no wrong answer to that, probably. For them as well. It's all about down to cost, like you said.
Okay, so costs, and we're talking about premium players, and Mo Salah there can definitely impact what team formation you end up with. So we're all, chalk amongst all chalk is Erling Haaland. He's at 14 million, most expensive player in the game. You bring in Haaland, Trent, and Mo Salah, and immediately you're looking at a 3-5-2. Probably a 4-5-1. So team formation is going to be an interesting conversation as we head to the deadline. A couple of questions regarding, more a statement from Eric with a K. I'm loving 3 forwards set up with Haaland, Kane, and Jesus. That's a lot of money up front. Dave, LCS Stato, I'm going mostly template at the start, but leaving $3 million in the bank to upgrade a bench player to a 7.5 mid or forward. I love that kind of conservative team structure to start, where you leave a little cash in the bank. So as you go into game week 2, you can figure out, well, what did I get wrong? Inevitably, you're going to get one or two things wrong, and you've got that cash in the bank.
Sorry, we can pause there because this question is kind of in depth. I'm not exactly. I think some people were kind of thinking of starting with Sterling. The Sterling. Discourse is already starting
come and gone.
That too, I was gonna say, but they start with Liverpool, so they're not a good game week 1. So I was like, is he thinking of like benching Sterling or buying Sterling week 2? But I guess the idea here is, like he says, maybe is this a more broad question of how much is too much to leave in the bench, or leave in the bank rather, as insurance, if you will, pardon the pun.
And related to the formation question, I think Stato's getting at the idea where he can start with a 3-5-2 and with money in the bank. My issue always with a 3-5-2 or just 2 or 1 starting forwards is you're always painting yourself into a corner. If you have that 4.5 forward who doesn't play, that's such a valuable position, because forwards, typically the farthest forward player in the match, most likely to be at the end of a goal-scoring opportunity. Lots of fantasy points are available from forwards, and to be able to chop and change in that Solanke-esque position can be really valuable as you try to go with the flow. So I think what Stato is saying here is he can start with the 3-5-2. With money in the bank, he can then either solidify the midfield with a different midfielder pick and stay in the 3-5-2, or he's got that $3 million in the bank to upgrade his non-playing forward and move to a 3-4-3. So
I gotta think more about this. I don't have I'm in my gut, something feels wrong about this strategy, but it doesn't. I don't know. I guess the thesis here is that we are pretty sure that one mid-price midfielder will just be a must-have. We're not sure who, so I want to save some money to jump on that player. But are you going to be sure game week 1? Like I'm not a little questionable on the thesis of the play, but I'm actually going to disagree with you on one of your earlier statements, Brian. I'm going to push back on your statement that
this should be a debate, Dave.
That it's an embrace debate is what many people say in broadcasting. Is it 3-5-2 or even like 4-5-1? You said it does take up a valuable slot of holding that 4.5 for a non-playing player, typically a forward. Actually, I would disagree. At the beginning of the season, I think it's actually in some ways safer because you have optionality in game week 2 because you're 2 moves away from pretty much any player in the game by having that money stacked up into a big midfield. You're not spread around, I should say. So instead of having just the money sprinkled all over, you have almost all cheapies on your bench, and within just one hit, if you find someone like I totally screwed up, I should have had this person, take one hit game week 2 and get them in pretty much in any hit move. So I think if you're just think about that as spending 4 points because you did an oopsie, I think that's pretty safe versus leaving $3 million off of your team game week 1, which would equate to, I don't know, maybe a couple tenths of a point. but anyways, I mean, you're still leaving money on the table there and missing out on that potential value game week 1. So I actually kind of do like sometimes a 3-5-2 or even the one at the top is interesting. Will be interesting to play with as the weeks go on because I think it does allow you some optionality in game weeks 2 and 3 to change positions with only a couple moves. So I think there's two ways you can look at that. I don't think either are incorrect though. Because tried and true, 3-4-3 in the end of the year, where do we all playing? Like 3-4-3 because it's the but so we'll see.
And there is the wild card ultimately that will help us totally remake our formation if that is a huge concern. And I guess for the more rookie fantasy managers listening out there, the big discussion with formation really comes down to: do you want to put more faith in midfield players or in forward players? The advantage of with playing 5 across the midfield, you're getting more points for goals, you're getting optional clean sheet points from those mids, and there might be more routes to attacking points through a midfielder who has great assist potential as well as goal scoring, or they're a set piece taker, where then there are forwards, as I was mentioning, who are just farther up the pitch, but they tend to be, particularly the lower you get down the form table, harder to rely upon.
Exactly. It's more variance, but the extremely good value, obviously, when you hit on a cheap forward who might be on pens or is just, doing a lot of other, assisting, just ticking over, great value, but is more risky. And I think overall, and if you're new, I feel like there's plays that are kind of like computer plays, I'll say, like big at the back always looks good on a computer algorithm, or more midfielders, like you said, because they have more ways to score points, to get more points for goals. So if you put it into an optimizer computer, you're like, defenders are better value points per dollar, and midfielders are better value points per dollar. It's like, so therefore I should invest more in those positions. But I don't know. In reality, we always end up having to hitch our wagon to some cheap forwards, right? So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes when we tinker.
All right, Mike Thunder's got a question that kind of bridges question 3 to question 4, and question 4 gets us into some team-specific talk. Mike Thunder says, 3-5-2 with $1.5 million in the bank is my current favorite, as I love all the midfield options. He's going without Trent and Salah. Mike is. That's his big call at the moment. He loves having an extra City attacker, and there are so many good 5 to 5.5 million defenders as well. Game week 2, going without Liverpool with Trent and Salah. Mike says he's going to be hiding behind the sofa. Which gets us to Man City, treble winners. They are just kind of a question unto themselves. Question number 4 really is, which teams do we like this far out from the start of the season? Jimmy asks, Man City assets, Haaland is a no-brainer. Foden is getting attention. So there's the great Foden versus Grealish debate. Who else should we be getting, Jimmy wants to know. Gundo's gone, Mahrez perhaps on his way out. Are Alvarez or Bernardo legit options alongside Grealish? So, I mean, how did you play Man City last season, Dave? Did you have any luck with players outside of Haaland, honestly?
Not really, to my memory. I don't think I played a while.
No, I don't think so. I can't remember.
I've been
a
in
moment.
the past couple of years. I've been a Foden guy. So the Foden. The Foden hype here. I didn't know there was a bandwagon. This is breaking news. Always
there
cheating. There's a Foden bandwagon, and I'm usually first on that bandwagon. So man, don't tempt me, Jimmy, an FPL guy. Jeez, I might have to, but it is crazy. I mean, Haaland is 85% owned, Stone's 20%, and then everyone else is like in the 10 lower. It's going to be a tough one. Hopefully we'll get more information on, the Pep roulette. Foden's always as exciting, yet, obviously annoying player to own for a number of those reasons, and minutes and variance is tough. But I mean, City defender, just by the numbers, like it feels like we all should have one, but you don't see a lot of teams with one, so it's hard to squeeze in.
They were so unforgiving, the Man City defenders last season. Ederson among them. They dominated team after team, but could not manage to keep the clean sheets. So in my tinkers, it's just been John Stones and Haaland. Those have been the only City players that I've come close to. I think Ruben Diaz kind of becomes a Ederson type figure, where Ruben Diaz became a ever-present starter for City in the second half of the season, but you're not going to get anything out of the attack. I feel like my approach with City has become to only get players that you can maximize. There will be, weeks where we're all dead certain, that Riyad Mahrez is going to play, and if you're right, then there is some upside there. They're just so tough because they attack so well, they're able to spread those attacking points all around. So I'm not terribly bothered apart from Haaland, which does make me, again, really intrigued by Liverpool, because I think that they're going to be scoring as a team more fantasy points, and Trent getting his mojo back at the end of last season, and he's looking, what did I say, Dave? How shredded does Trent look this summer? Very, very shredded. But we haven't really talked much about Arsenal and our expectations. They clinched the Declan Rice move. Saka scored, upon viewing the highlights, Dave. It was a fairly easy goal. I mean, Saka had to create the goal. He cut into his left and hit it across the keeper. Easy goal. What do you think? I mean, is Saka the player you want from Arsenal? Do you think they're going to be doing another title charge this season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be great. I like the fact that there's a lot of consistency over year, but obviously they're adding Declan Rice for too much money. No, but I kid because I'm obviously, we have the Arsenal fans in our friend group, but I think they're going to be great. I love that I think they'll probably hit the ground running. They know who they are. They have an identity. So yeah, I think Saka is one of the first names on the team sheet for me. I think it's just how you want to triple up. Again, let's say it, triple up. I mean, one defender, Saka, and then do you trust Gabriel Jesus? We all don't, but you would think he'd come good or go for the second mid. I think is where my head is at. I don't see myself getting away from that by game week 1. Just with that opening fixture with Forest at home, it's going to be hard not to have triple up. I think so.
I'm interested to see the great thing about Arsenal from an FPL viewpoint last season was Arteta really had to settle on his strongest 11, and because they weren't, as they were playing in the Europa League for a while, I'm a little fuzzy there, but it just Arteta was never compelled to play on as many fronts at any given moment as a lot of other teams challenging for the top four, which meant he didn't have to rotate as much. That's not a dig at Arsenal at all. My point is, Arteta has brought in a lot of great options for rotation for this season. We mentioned Timber coming in to rotate into the defense, Kai Havertz coming in to essentially replace Xhaka, but Havertz could play in various places on the pitch as needs arise, and then Declan Rice too. So I wonder if there's going to be a little more anxiety around Arsenal this season as compared to last, with like, oh man, is Saliba going to play this week? I don't know. Is he due a rest? I mean, that stuff can often be overstated. I guess that's like a preseason lesson to everybody is don't get too tied up in template talk, and don't get too tied up in the will they, won't they play talk, because your patience will often be rewarded there. So, I mean, Chelsea, Spurs, and who else would we be thinking in that top four conversation? Newcastle, I feel like right now, just based on what we saw of them last season, and based on all of the demands we have on our fantasy teams from other teams' attack, it's really down to defenders for Newcastle, it feels like right now, right?
Yeah, Newcastle are an interesting one. I mean, I think, I think I'm going to start with probably Botman, probably steer clear of the rest for now. The other top four, well, Spurs have an outside chance at top four, but I don't think it's very realistic this year. But unless a lot of things go right, is United are actually favorite to be top four.
Right, United. I just pissed a lot of people off in my off the cuff rundown of teams.
No, it was very good off the top of the head.
Thanks for saying.
Because especially you have to we all have to remember that Chelsea are going to do something this year, play football, and maybe win some games. We don't know. So
they will show up for the games. That's a fact that we know is going to happen.
So they're a complete black box to me right now, to be honest. So I got to step on the Chelsea research.
Yeah, you mentioned FPL guy there a second ago. He says Foden is my one player under 10% ownership, although technically his ownership is at 11% at the moment. And then Grealish, I just feel like Grealish won the hearts and minds last season. I think Foden's still going to struggle a little bit, though. I'm not sure if Foden's path into the City lineup now is through the left wing where Grealish plays, because when Kevin De Bruyne went off in the Champions League final with his torn hamstring, Foden came in and played more through the middle alongside Grealish, and he did well. I mean, they won the bloody Champions League. I wonder if Foden gets more of an opportunity as De Bruyne's wheels start to fall off playing through the middle, which could be actually interesting. Now, Alvarez was played in this role occasionally as well. Another way to see.
KDB, no one's talking about KDB. Mm-hmm. Guess who's odds favorite to lead the league in assists this year? None other. Okay.
Yeah, speaking of chalk, who put those odds together? Like man who gets most assists last season predicted to get most assists this season. Thanks a lot.
Well, I'm giving you the information. I mean, who's talking about KDB though, huh? He's a differential.
I love him. I love my baby blue.
Is he both flags? No one's gonna click on that.
He could be the secret triple captain.
I kid. I don't know.
I've all been waiting for.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, two more questions here, Dave. Quick one on goalkeeper and defender strategy, and then we'll wrap it up with some fixture talk. So question 5, goalkeeper and defender strategy. Stephen Curtis says, interested in your thoughts on goalkeepers. Pickford was not good in fantasy last year, but under Dyche at Everton for a full season and mouth-watering price of 4.5. And now that we know Ashley Young is going to be playing for the Toffees, it further increases the stock of Jordan Pickford. Who would be first in your team sheet for goalkeeper, Dave?
Right now, I just have a space for to be determined Brighton goalkeeper. But I think the past couple of years it is goalkeeper roulette. It's pick the cheapie and roll with it and hope you get some lucky points out of the deal. I know you're a premium goalkeeper guy, Brandon. So this is more for me. But no, I don't have obviously don't have a strong lean yet. Pickford is a gross one to click on, obviously. But I think I might just pick cheapie de jour, and probably on the probably among the 4.5 is probably how I'll roll this year.
Yeah, I've been looking at Sam Johnstone, and by the way, on that dig you got in there, Dave, about me loving premium goalkeepers, I do think Ederson broke me last season. I do think I will never have a goalkeeper.
Us,
yeah, all of us, yeah. I don't think I can go above 5.0. Now, if Onana for Manchester United comes in at 5.0, I'm listening. Ramsdale at 5.0, I don't know, maybe.
I think it's too much risk taking up a third attack, or I should say,
that's right.
I think because you'll have a different. I think Gabriel is up there, so yeah, that's the problem with Ramsdale. But bucks per dollar, he's great, probably.
The fixtures for Palace are interesting. Starting away Sheffield United, Arsenal at home, not great. London derby though. Brentford, Wolves, Villa, Fulham, and then they've got Forest at home in game week 8. I don't know. I believe in Roy Hodgson to a degree, as much as I believe in our elders, Dave. I respect them. But if you're just looking at 4.5 guys, Sam Johnstone, Pickford, this is another one where there are a handful of good options. Very interested to see who gets the preseason minutes to give us some indication of starter. And we wait to see what happens game week 1. Then we get a real kind of clue as to how tight certain teams are going to be. Taylor Ferguson asks, rank the 5 to 6 million defenders to start with. You got Ake, Stones, Gabriel Estupiñán, James, Chilwell. Taylor currently on Stones, Gabriel Estupiñán, Botman, and Bell. Bell among the 3 noted 4.0 defenders coming up from the championship. So a few names stick out to me that we haven't touched upon yet, Dave. Estupiñán at Brighton, who was just an incredible attacking fullback for Brighton. And then we have the 2 dudes from Chelsea, Reece James and Ben Chilwell. If we do expect Chelsea to do anything, James and Chilwell have to be in our thoughts. So what is it going to take for you? Now, you mentioned that Chelsea don't have the best. They have Liverpool in game week 1. And buying a fullback who has Liverpool in game week 1 at 5.5 million, I don't know. How rash does that feel?
Well, I think there's some ways already people are thinking of playing Botman week 1 and rotation, but this is a bit where it's a little too early because we don't know if there's a 4.0 starter or that we're going to trust quite yet. I think that jury's still out, and it's a little bit early on some of these folks, but Estupiñán's like mega chalk right now. I think that one's pretty well a no-brainer. And then Chelsea is another wait and see with how is the system going to affect the James of the world. So I don't have a rank quite yet. I like having the City option in there. I think we should still have that option in our template spreadsheet, if you will. Good thing, Our template, meaning our whole spreadsheet of ideas. I think we should keep City warm defender just in case. I think it could be interesting, but yeah, in the mix of how we go, how cheap we need to go based on the forward options. I think it's a wait and see on these guys for me. And what Bell is and the cheapo de jours and all that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the 4.0 defenders go, I would lean more towards Jordan Bayer. Now, all these championship teams, none of them, I don't think, are rehiring managers this season. I mean, notably, Burnley coming up with Vincent Kompany as their manager. I see no world in which Burnley changes up their... I mean, maybe they tweak their tactics a bit coming into a new division, but I don't think they change their formation or their style of play too dramatically. And one would think just the way Burnley played in the Championship last season and the confidence they will have under Vincent Kompany, I just feel like backing them over the likes of Luton and Sheffield United. So Jordan Beyer 4.0 is my current fave at the 4.0 price bracket. All right, Dave, last question. As we look ahead, a month out, keys to fixture planning. What are the keys to fixture planning in the preseason? And what we mean here is exactly what King Koopa asked. How many game weeks do you consider when looking at fixtures for your game week 1 squad? Does knowing you have an early wildcard in your pocket mean you can focus just on, say, the first 3 to 4 weeks of fixtures? Or, Dave, are you looking beyond 4 weeks? Are you looking like 8 weeks and trying to game out, all right, Chelsea have a rough start, but then things get better in game week 6. Therefore, I'm still comfortable bringing players in my game week 1 draft? Or is your preferred strategy, I'm just trying to do a strategic strike at the start of the season, maybe early wild card, or take a few points hits if I've gotten anything wrong, but focus like really on the first 1, 2, 3 game weeks?
I would say the latter, and that might sound sort of aggressive because I'm more of like a conservative player, possibly you could say. But I think for attacking players, we really should focus on the first 3 to 4 because you really have to, fixtures, they define form. And if you get the form players in, you're going to get the points and they're going to price rise. So I think it's very important in your attacking midfielders, forwards. I like to look at the first 3 for get a good start under your belt, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then also you get more knowledge. If they have good fixtures and they still stink, then you really know you should sell them. So that makes pulling the trigger on a sell or a hit early, if you need be, easier to make, even though it might not be ideal, but you can course correct quickly. So I like that. And then for defenders, I don't know, Brandon, what do you like? I don't think necessarily you have to have like the perfect rotation, quote unquote rotation for like, green fixtures every week, but I mean, defenders, you're not going to change them. So really 8 to 10 weeks if you can, just to make sure that it's not some like multiple disaster weeks of bad rotation. But I don't know, is that too long? Or I think that's fair, right? You're not going to change defenders.
I agree with you because the point ceiling is going to be relatively low on your defenders compared to midfielders and forwards. And attacking output in fantasy is often, look at Miguel Almiron last season. It's often based on form, and you have to jump on these players. The earlier, the better. So if you're holding your transfers for, I'm going to try to get hot players who are midfielders and forwards, and just, the die has been cast with your defenders and goalkeeper, because even if you've got a bum defender who's... they're just missing out on a clean sheet, so they're getting 2 points instead of 6 points, versus a midfielder who ends up on a 10-point week plus bonus perhaps, and I need them to capitalize on form. So the more you can kind of commit to your defenders long term and focus just on chasing form and with your attacking players, I'm fully in support of that. So the fixtures themselves, Arsenal really do have an incredible start to the season. They have Nottingham Forest at the Emirates in game week 1 as they begin a brand new season, renewed, followed by Palace, then Fulham, then they host Manchester United at the Emirates in game week 4, Everton, North London Derby at the Emirates in game week 6, followed by Bournemouth, and then they hit City in game week 8. There are a couple of banana peels there, but overall, Arsenal have one of the strongest opening fixtures. I mean, any teams that jumped out at you, Dave, as you looked at the fixtures where you're like, whoa, maybe I'll take a chance on this team just based on that. I mean, Brighton also kind of stick out to me, where they host Luton in game week 1 and followed by Wolves and then West Ham.
Yeah, Brighton's one where I'm kind of like trying to forget them a little bit in drafts to go after some of these top 4, top 6 teams, but not that, Brighton might have a shot top 6, but I don't look at the odds, but yeah, that's one that sort of sneaks up on you because then you see a draft or people talking about the Brighton players we know and love, and they have Luna, and you're like, ooh, shoot, that is a good one. So I think that's you identified the one that's maybe I've been missing. But none of the other, I mean, it's pretty, well, that's another reason why we have a lot of teams diverging towards the same chalky players is because the top teams and the schedule have kind of aligned to sort of to offer that. The galaxy brain thinking of like benching Chelsea players till week 3 or whatever, but I don't think that's something I would do. So no, I mean, I think it's there for us for the taking with some of these.
City's fixtures are bonkers. Burnley in game week 1, Newcastle at the Etihad, then Sheffield United, Fulham, West Ham, Forest, and Wolves. I mean, there are a lot of goals.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to crush. I mean, they're going to. It's crazy. Foden back on the menu. It's like, man.
We thought we got away with it, but now we're back.
We did it. Oh,
all
gosh.
right. Let's actually get away with it here, Dave, and close out the show. Those are your 6 unanswered questions a month out from the start of the FPL season. All right. Before we get out of here, just another quick plug for the Patreon. If you like what you hear, you want to support us, you want to get more FPL content in return, go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. Also, for 50% off that Fantasy Football Hub membership, go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/always. Again, that's 50% off at any tier. Super stoked to be partnering with Hub in this season. And let's shout out our producers. Dave, I love to hear you read your own name, so why don't you give a run-through of the producers today?
Yeah, sure. It's Mike DePietro, Trevor, T-Bone Ingerson, our buddy Chris Howell, Babas Kuhn, possibly Kun Aguero, relation, we don't know. James Holland Tunnel is what I call James Holland Tunnel. Nick Wright, he's
Are you
the
doing
right
Tim
choice.
Heidecker's stand-up character? Like, calling all cars.
That was exactly what I was thinking, actually.
Nice. I love it.
Lazarus Yanos. I mean, that speaks for itself, I guess. Jesse Hallstatt, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Blair Jakobsen, Todd Burley. Not the Chelsea owner. No, it's Todd Burley. Andy Portlock. He's not coming to the potluck empty-handed. Andy Portlock. FPL merch. Carrie Swanson. She's eating. Carrie, man or woman, eat Swanson dinners. They like Swanson dinners at home.
That's a thing.
They're planning the FPL. Jefferson Turner, he's in overdrive with this line reading. Buffalo Wild Wings, Francis Moore, Sam Shower. Showers, kind of like a schnauzer. That's a good dog for Sam. Caleb Robbie, Velger Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keeley, The Saint. Great movie. Fantastic movie. I'm glad the movie is sponsoring the podcast. Bob Fox, he's crazy. He's crazy like Bob the Fox. Craig Jackson, Shailen F. Kandakia, Terrence O'Donnell, Paul Herzig. It's kind of like that famous director, but no, it's Paul Herzig, that's spelled differently. Heather Cram, Thomas Tislov, Noah and Louise. Travis Grant. I'll grant you. That's a great choice to sponsor the podcast, Travis. And Julio Pena, like the Boston Red Sox former catcher, Pena, famous catcher for the Red Sox, family member, cousin possibly supporting the podcast. Thank you all. Hope to meet you this year as a viewing in New York. And thanks for supporting these guys' great podcasts.
I wish I could bottle that and sell it, Dave. Fantastic job. And if Patreon is not your thing, you can do for free. Just give us a 5-star rating and review wherever podcasts are found. Subscribe, and you'll never miss an episode. Dave, thanks again for joining us. Good luck with all of your preseason tinkering and planning. Josh and I will be back next week with some more team and player-focused preseason content for you. We'll talk to you then. Bye.